Hello, fellow readers and booktubers. Banned Book Week this year was the week of October 5th. And I really enjoyed watching the videos put up by my fellow booktubers bemoaning this fact and talking about the books that have been banned. And I really enjoyed the pushback for this. The big phrase that kept emerging was, "I'm with the band." I love that. And I'm very much with the band as well. But the fact that this is happening, it's nothing new really, but it is on the increase. And the fact that it's happening here in the United States is a disgrace, and it's inexcusable. And but because of that, I think it shouldn't just be 1 week that's banned Book Week. Every day should be banned Book Week. We should be on the alert for this. The red flags are everywhere that something is going horribly wrong in the United States. The fact that more and more books keep getting banned. And what's causing it? I think broadly speaking, it's fear. Fear and ignorance. Fear and ignorance leads to the banning of books, because books introduce new ideas. Books can be challenging to people. And some people don't want to be challenged, and they're not interested in any new ideas. They find new ideas threatening. Also, superstition feeds into this. If a book might challenge your deeply held religious beliefs, people are upset by this. But they're more upset than ever before. And I think because, we're in a period of transition in this country. And during transitional periods, there's a lot of anxiety connected with that. And then with that comes the fear. And with the fear comes anger. There's a lot of anger in this country right now. And this is being fed by various news outlets, various politicians, podcasters. They make their money by scaring their audience. And so I think as the fear quotient increases, so does the call for banning more and more books. And the books which get censored, or the ones that get banned, are always the ones that reflect the biggest concerns in a society at the time. Now, like I said, banned books, the idea of this, it's nothing new. It's shameful that it ever happens here, but it's really nothing new. There was a time when books were being banned because the argument was the books in some way encouraged a communist, socialist ideology. John Steinbeck got in a lot of trouble for that. He was called a communist sympathizer, so his books were being banned left and right. Lately, it seems like the books that are being banned are the ones that challenge traditional views of sexuality. Books that deal with gay people and transsexuals and all that. That's the big target now. Other times, the target have been any books that kind of highlight the dignity of marginalized people. Those books get banned too. What's interesting about this, I think, is that books that promote or seem to promote or allegedly promote socialism and communism, they get banned. But books that might have a subtext of supporting fascist dictatorships, those hardly ever get banned. Books that challenge, as I said, traditional views of sexuality, they get banned. But books that will encourage the patriarchy, that will depict women as the weak helpmates of their men, and men as these kind of alpha males, those never seem to get banned. Books that elevate the marginalized, people of color, they get banned. But the books that promote Christian white nationalism, they never seem to get banned. And of course, there's exceptions to this, but I think generally speaking, when you look at that, it gives you a sense of where this fear is coming from, what part of the political spectrum you find the most fear and the most anger and the greatest desire to control people's thinking and to authoritarianism, or the call for authoritarianism. I find that kind of interesting. Also, it would seem a lot of the people that make the loudest noise about banning books are the ones who have very rarely read the books that they want to have banned. Anyway, be that as it may, the banned book tag created for this year was created by Katrina at Ms-Peepers-Reading-Corner. And Katrina had listed 5 prompts here. So I thought I would respond to them. A little late in the day, but never too late to discuss this. It's an important topic. The first prompt was, do you intentionally read banned books? Why or why not? I'm a pretty independent reader. I read what I want to read when I want to read it. I wouldn't read a book just because it's been banned, but I would not read a book because it's been banned. In other words, whether the book has been banned or not has no bearing on whether I'm going to read it or not. However, if someone were asking me to recommend a book, I would just pull out a list of the banned books and I said, here, read any one of these. Go for it. Would I intentionally read a banned book? Not really, but I would not read a banned book, if that makes sense. I read what I like to read. Tell us about your favorite banned book. I think the easy choice here is Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, just because the very fact that this book gets banned so often shows a couple of things. First of all, the people who ban books have no self-awareness whatsoever, and they have no understanding of irony. Because if they did, they wouldn't ban this book. This book is about a dystopian future where books are being banned and burned. So the fact that this one gets singled out for banning it's absurd. It's ridiculous. So that's got to be my favorite, just because it's just, I love irony, and that's the most ironic call for a banning of a book that I can even think of. Share a story about book banning. I haven't really encountered any direct experience with a book that's been banned, but not long ago I was in a local bookstore, and I was among the books I was buying. There were 3 books in particular. I already had copies of these books, but they were in paperback and they were falling apart, and I want fresher copies of this that would kind of hang together better. So I was getting new copies of these books, and those books were Marx's The Communist Manifesto, Freud's Civilization and Its Discontents, and Allen Ginsberg's poem Howl. As I was checking out, the clerk checking me out said, that's quite an assortment of books. And I said, yep, I'm trying to scare the neighbors. And the clerk laughed at that. She got the joke. But anyway, so that's not really a book banning story, but I think it's kind of reflective of an attitude that people have about books, that people are threatened by books. And it's just so ridiculous that people would be threatened by a book. But again, it's always the most poorly informed among us. Let's just put it that way. Which book would you memorize to save it from censors, a la Fahrenheit 451? For those of you who haven't read Fahrenheit 451, the book ends with the main character discovers that there's this kind of clique of people who live in a wilderness area, and they're memorizing the great books, the books that are being burned up and destroyed. They're memorizing the text of these books in the hopes that someday, when books will be legal again, they'll be able to put these books down and write. So the books won't be lost. There'll be certain people who'll be singled out. You memorize this book, and you memorize that one, and everything else. I haven't read Fahrenheit in quite a while, but as I recall, the intimation was the books that were being memorized were largely great works of fiction, the classical works of literature. If I were to memorize a book, I would go for philosophy, most especially Seneca's Letters from a Stoic. I did a video on this not too long ago on Stoicism in general, but this in particular, Seneca's writings about Stoicism are the clearest, the most humane, and the most helpful, especially for people or a society in a time of crisis. And if we're living in an age when books are being banned and burned, and that age is rapidly coming upon us, this would be one of those books you'd really want to protect, even to the point of memorizing it just to keep it alive. And this would be the one I would memorize. I would go for this translation too, the Robin Campbell translation of the Penguin edition. Very, very good book. Very wonderful. Let's see here. The fifth prompt, are there any books that challenge your opinions on book banning? Be honest. Here's the fly in the ointment. You can say that you're opposed to banning books, and I am opposed to banning books, but there are some books out there that, I don't know, you get into a gray area here. So I was thinking about this. Are there any books that are so awful, so horrific, that they should be locked up in a room somewhere or buried. I would never consent to burning a book, but maybe there are some books out there that are really pretty awful. Are there? Is there a limit to free speech? I keep thinking of that famous case or that Supreme Court decision written by Oliver Wendell Holmes, where he said, you have a right to free speech, but you don't have the right to yell fire in a crowded movie theater when there is no fire. If what you're saying creates a clear and present danger, you should be prevented from saying it. And I think this might apply to books too. If there's a book that presents a clear and present danger to the person, to the society, and the person reading it, should that book be banned? I don't know. I was thinking, some people have been pointing out that a few years from now, there's going to be a whole bunch of political memoirs being written by the fascist creatures that currently have the country in their strangle grip. And they'll be writing their political memoirs. And these political memoirs will be so filled with lies and distortions and everything else. Should those kind of books be banned? No, I wouldn't ban those books. They should be put on the shelf as a testimony to the horrors of fascism and how fascism can destroy a democratic republic. And then I was thinking, I remember a few years ago I read a magazine article, might have been in the Atlantic Monthly or the New Yorker or something like that, and it was about the dark web, that terrible corner of the internet that no decent person would go to. I've never had any desire to check it out, but in the dark web, you can apparently get photographs and videos and make contact with terrible people doing terrible things. And in one part of the article, they were talking about books that are published and only made available on the dark web. And these books deal with, they're only of prurient interest, and they deal with graphic depictions of sexual violence against women and children. These are awful things, written by awful people for an audience of terrible people. Should those books be banned? Well, I think they kind of ban themselves. These books are not easily available. I wouldn't know how to get one. I wouldn't want to have one. And I think the people who write these kind of books and the people who read these kinds of books are they're in the dark. They're in the shadows. They're under our feet. They're there, but they have just enough humanity left in them to know that what they're using to entertain themselves is so vile and sick that they keep it hidden. So if somehow one of those books was to escape and show up on the shelves of a Barnes & Noble, I would say, yeah, pull that one down. But again, that's an unlikely scenario. So I guess, yeah, I maybe something like that should be banned. But generally speaking, the books you can find in your library or any bookstore, no, none of them should be banned, ever. There is a sixth prompt here. It says tag people. I think pretty much everyone for Banned Book Week has been tagged, so I'm going to skip that one. Anyway, I just wanted to share my thoughts on this, and that's all I've got for you today. Stay strong and keep reading.